This was not planned. I don't even know where the mic is on this phone. I hope I'm talking in the right area. You're looking at a black screen. I'm aware of that. This is just going to be a casual chat. Again, because this is what I do. And I'm going to pretend maybe like there's millions of people tuning in to hear me, and I have a podcast and an amazing voice, and people love hearing me and just want to tune in to see what I have to say next. If there was a million people tuning in, I wouldn't be able to speak, probably. I do have a window open. The birds were singing. It was lovely. Now there's just a lot of cars going by, but it's lunch hour here. I like to play with the algorithm to see when the best times are to go on, because I also know I have people on the West Coast who do tune in sometimes. So I just wanted to talk and witness a little bit. Gasp, there goes my audience. No, though, I have a couple of anecdotes to share, and I am not in a place where I can do a walk and talk today. I'm hit, my body's rather hit after the fainting spell and knocking my head, and now walking home. And I don't want pity, but prayers for good health would be amazing right now. Not everybody has someone to look after them when they're not doing well, or their pets, or their houses, or their cars, or their families. So the title here is where I got my title from. I'm going to share a couple of anecdotal experiences. Ooh, and you can see the buds are coming on a couple of these smaller trees, which is encouraging. If you didn't hear the beginning, I apologize, but I'm going to keep going, because if I keep repeating, then nobody will tune in to listen. But yes, this is just me talking and sharing a couple of things and hoping that I encourage you, but the encouragement kind of always comes at the end. So I'm a realist these days. So I'm going to tell you, when God asked me to do this way back in 2018, until John Van, hello, how are you? Back in 2018, when God asked, and I know there goes all the new people that might tune in. When God asked me to do this, I, of course, was ambivalent. I thought that I was having an imagination in my head. But then when things started to occur, I sat up and paid attention. And I want to encourage you through that a little bit. Because I'm noticing, of course, again, as I go deeper into scripture and into church history, and as I go deeper, hello Landon, and as I go deeper into my own spirituality and identifying with self, right? Everybody grates on the ego these days, but if you get rid of ego, you get rid of self, and I don't believe that's what the creator, maker had intended for us. She is an artist and likes to see things that are beautiful and in different colors and sizes and look down upon that. And so we're pretty amazing that way. We're pretty amazing as a group of people. But when I totally believe God asked me to do this back in 2018, I did not want to do this. But I realize now that, like, it wasn't just about witnessing in churches and seeing what happened in them, because believe me, I've visited almost every local church and I've had some weird experiences. I don't think I'll ever again go to like an evangelical charismatic church. Those people can get a little intense. And I went to the Methodist church. I went to a couple Protestant churches. I went to another low grade, I don't know what kind of church it, like how to even describe it. It looked almost like a house church, but we got to this point where everybody held up money and started worshiping money. And I'm not kidding. Like, this happened in a small town little white building that looked like it was, probably a fundamentalist church. Everybody just started talking about and worshiping and praying for money. So that's where we're at as a society, but as materialists and hedonists. But as I notice, as I go deeper with my spiritual walk, and maybe I'm sure you do too, and that's why I do this also, is to try and encourage people through my bad experiences, but all the same, it's all in perspective too. Not completely, but a lot. Not truth isn't. Our experiences are based on our personal perspective, I guess is what I'm reaching for there. So I don't think he intended for me to go to just churches and witness, right? He wanted me to witness everything about society that have been hidden from me and everybody, because we get in this beast machine system where you work, play, and you do everything hard, especially in America. That's why I hate people downgrading us, because most of us are very hard workers, and we've worked hard to the point where we've tore our bodies up. But it's like, work hard, play hard, buy heavy, buy whatever. When you get away from that, the more things you drop, the more people you lose that are close to you. And it can be discouraging. And obviously, it's heartbreaking and frustrating as well. Nobody would want to admit that, when I try to be a better person, everybody hates me. But now I'm seeing that I am a lot stronger than I knew. And so are you. Our testimony has the word test in it for a reason. And so I don't think it's just about my experiences or witnessing at these different churches. I think it's about our society as a whole. And I had spent so much time just working to provide for my family day to day, and I had forgotten, I had the truth when I was a child, and shame on me and I still prayed to God in my head, and I still talked to God, but I didn't do any Bible reading, or I didn't go to church, obviously, and I did not have my children baptized. And this is also an act of repentance and penance, because if I could do things over, I would. And I know sometimes younger people tune in, and that's why I do this as well. So I got to witness the vegan group. Now, I've had experiences with the rainbow hijackers, the very nasty ones, but I have people in my family who are in that club and are very truly loving and kind and compassionate and funny and charming. I've talked to Muslims. I've witnessed how they are and how they behave and their kindness, and not just the propaganda that we are fed through the screens. I have talked to women who have a lot of money and a lot of things and a lot of stuff. I have talked with, and I was neighbors with, a woman who posed for Playboy. I've witnessed a lot of different groups here where I live in this small town, both on the screen and in person. And so recently I decided to try again to mix with society, and not even in person, just online in a Reddit group, 2 of them. Well, one I just entered, the other one I actually posted a post after watching the interactions for a couple of weeks and witnessing how they behave with each other and what they do with each other. And I'm like, maybe I can, and I was excited. I was like, maybe I can do something in this group. Now, I need to preface this. You're going to have to understand why I stopped eating animals. And again, this isn't a judgmental thing where I tell you what you have to eat or should eat. I don't do that, okay? I'm not here to do that. I think we're all going to end up at the same destination, and that is what is the most important thing, is that we get there to the end of this together as a family, as a species that is a family. But we're going to experience this reality, and we're going to get back to, I don't believe we're in a simulation theory per se, but I do believe we might be in a computer. And I know that sounds weird. I know that sounds wild. And we're going to look into that. But today I am rather beat up. And so I just wanted to witness and tell you about my experience trying to dip my toes back into society again in a whole nother group. Now, people told me for a couple of years and it didn't sink in. I wasn't hearing them. And mind you, in America, we are severely indoctrinated insofar as our food chain and the process of like behind the scenes of what makes our country run, as far as truckers and trains, and almost nothing is shipped by trains anymore. So all these wrecks that they're talking about, highly suspicious to me. But anyways, moving on. Very few people understand the dynamics of it's a need to know basis, right? You know what you need to know for your little part to make the beast run. All right. So it's hidden from most of us. And I remember I had the toy as a child that you pull the string, and it was old McDonald's farm, and it says the cow goes moo, the cow is moo, goes moo, he-hi, the dairy-o, the cow goes moo. And it was every animal, right? And I live near Amish people, okay? And I've been to a couple of shops where they have a shop or restaurant right on the site of where they live, right? They do the milk, the cheese, all that stuff gets done in the same place at the same time. That's different. That's wholly different than our food system as a nation, than our commercial food chain. And that's what I'm talking about right now. I don't want to talk about the Native Americans or people who hunt and use every part and go out in nature and at least are sustaining themselves and their families that way. Like, I'm not passing judgment at all. And I have to preface this. It took me a while, but I finally realized, looking in my dog's eyes, I said, how can I possibly say that I love animals and have animals in my home and eat them? And I learned that from Axel. He was just looking at me one day, and I was having a hamburger, and God had already told me back right before CV started, right before, it was probably the end of 2018, he had advised me to like stop eating pork. I just heard his voice in my head, clear as day one day, said, don't eat the pork. And I was like, oh, okay. Or it was don't eat meat, don't eat the meat. And I was cooking bacon at the time. And I was like, all right. And so I thought he meant pork. So I stopped eating pork. And I'm like, well, and then I started looking, the process started in me first. And then I started looking to other people in history who had dropped the meat. Okay, so that's how it began. So I finally make a post in this one group. And in this group, and mind you, I'd watched their interaction for a few weeks at least. And I noticed that a large majority of vegans and vegetarians are satanic. And by that, I don't mean they worship a being. I mean, they are the too bad, so sad crowd. You need to help yourself. We're not helping you. And they're anti-human, but they're very pro-animal. Not all of them. I'm not making a blanket statement, mind you. I had a few nice interactions as well. But again, I'm here to witness so we can diagnose the problem and move forward and be solution-centered. That is my job. So anyway, as I'm seeing these interactions, I decide to make a post. And in it, I include that I'm Christian and that I believe that Christ was a kosher vegetarian at the very least, because a vegan back then would have been different. Cow milk production would not have been the way it is today. It would have been each family is housing animals, caring for the animals, sustaining their families through the fur, and and they're treated well. I'm not talking about that time, all right? After the flood, God said that we could have the meat in the diet, apparently. So I'm not judging. Excuse me. So as I make this first post in this group that I entered, I decide to include that I'm Christian. I believe Christ was at least a kosher vegetarian. And that I'm hoping that I can witness to other Christians and begin their process there. You know what I mean? Because I'm noticing these interactions as well in videos on the streets. They're only showing the arguments that they have with Christ followers. They're only showing us as like barbaric people who believe in a blood sacrifice, and you know that and again, Christianity is not what it used to be. And I hate saying Christianity, to be honest with you, because Christ wasn't a Christian. He didn't worship himself. He said to pray to the Father in heaven. And he also, I believe, said to pray to the Mother. But that's a whole nother video. So I decided to say that I decided to include that I'm Christian, and that I believe there is good evidence that Christ was at least a kosher vegetarian. And I'm sorry nobody's watching, and I kind of got a little discouraged for a second there. That's why I try not to look at that. So I make this post, and it sits there, and suddenly it has like 2,000 views, but only like 4 or 5 likes. And I'm like, okay, whatever, you know. And I start getting the comments. Why do you need a religious figure to show you the right thing to do? Why do you need a book to tell you the right thing to do? You know, just all of these judgmental things. And I said, you know, if I'm not welcome here, that's all you need to say. And then they go, you know, they decide to just keep going. If you weren't welcome here, I would have said you weren't welcome here. But blah, blah, like just very argumentative, right? And there were a couple who were very kind. A couple who said, welcome, you know, here's where you can get new recipes. We're glad to have you. But there was only 2 of those. And all of the other ones were very judgmental. And then when I stated as much and I said, you know, all you have to do is tell me to leave. I only included I was a Christian to try and be of help in this group. I wanted to be useful and witness to other Christians about the possibility of Christ being, you know, all compassionate, all loving and forgiving. Thus, he did not partake in the consummation. He did not consume animals, but, you know, others did and allowed others to. That there was no law against it, right? So again, just kind of follow me here, because this is not about judgment. It's about the judgment that was cast upon me by a group that's supposed to be, again, all loving, all compassionate, all of these groups, the rainbow group, this group. That is where all of my persecution has come from, and also in the church itself. In all the people who virtue signal and say, we're good because we do this. It's not about getting accolades, because I was thinking of that today with my children, and even with my parents, how they were with me, and my dog, even my dog companions. You shouldn't get a reward for doing what is right. That's expected. It's like a given in math. You just know it inherently, and you're born that way. I also don't believe necessarily that people are born without knowing that. I think everybody inherently knows the right and wrong thing to do, and we just choose the wrong thing. Hi, nice to have you. Thank you for being here. So again, this group that was supposed to be loving and compassionate kind of ganged up on me and made me feel like crap. So another little witness about vegans. I wanted to order a t-shirt because that's how I witness, because I live in a small town and I have no friends. The more things that I give up of the world, the more material things that I give up, and the more I get in touch with spirit, the more I face these very physical persecutions. But the lesson is in the fact that I no longer react in the same way that I used to, because we can't control the way other people act. We can only control our reactions and whether or not we react or respond. Okay, and that's what witnessing to each other about these different compassionate levels now. That's what it should be about, because now this is a realist truth. People have lost their hearts. They have turned cold, and their consciences, like, not everybody, but it's so prevalent now that you can see it, that it's a given. You should just know it by living day to day. And I'm certain that I'm not alone in this, which is why, again, I don't react in the way that I used to. Back in the day, I would have argued. I would have engaged in some argumentative type of behavior. But I decided that I know where it's coming from. I know it's not me that they hate, that it's God that's with me. And so it just makes me feel, it fills up my heart with the compassion I feel like they should have. It's like the more people close their hearts off, the people with the open hearts still are flooded with the excess. I hope that makes sense. My cup overfloweth, right? So I wanted to order this vegan t-shirt off of Etsy because I like to support small businesses and entrepreneurs. I also think supporting artisans is key for smaller community economies, so we don't have to depend on one central system for them all, on one ring for them all, if you will, if you know anything about Lord of the Rings. So I want to order this vegan tea, and it says that it can be personalized, but it has a graphic on the front with words. So I'm not sure how they can personalize it. So I send a message and I say, hey, I would like this shirt, but I want it personalized. On the back, I would like to add text. Is this possible? ? Oh, yes, sure, we can do this, no problem. I said, okay, because I just want it, quote unquote, personalized on the back. I like the front as it is. I want to leave that alone. Oh, yeah, sure, we can do that. Mind you, I'm getting in contact before I make a purchase so that there isn't any unfortunate misunderstandings. Because again, we are to use the brains that the good maker creates or gives us. So I hope you can hear the bird song in between the cars. I apologize. I'm having a hard time with my body, and a walk and talk was absolutely out of the question after what I posted yesterday, walking home in my dress clothes from church. It was just a no-go today. And I'm going to touch on that briefly when I'm done with this last testimony about vegans. So I had sent both of these messages, and they said, yeah, there shouldn't be any problem. So I get the shirt, and I put in the personalization box, Jesus is a vegan. And I use is and not was, because I believe he's alive. So I use is. And I say Jesus is a vegan. And I enter it into the box. And I put it in my cart. And then I go from my cart to my checkout, and I purchase it. Because I had sent 2 messages, right? I figured this was not going to be a problem. But I knew in my head. But I wanted to get, and again, I'm not trying to cause problems, mind you. This is me witnessing, all right? And kind of checking in with all of these different dynamics and groups of people. And you know, so I can say I did the best, quote unquote, job that I could given this assignment overall. So I put it in the cart, and I purchase it. And on the back it says, you know, Jesus is a vegan. She had said everything should be fine. Mind you, she didn't know what I wanted written on the back yet. She just knew that I wanted text on the back. She, he, whatever. And I'm pretty certain I was talking with a real person. It wasn't like a bot or an AI. So then after really swift replies, it gets to be like a couple hours later in the afternoon, and I'm like, and I say it out loud, I'm like, how much you want to bet that this woman or this person is trying to figure out how to get out of this because I have Jesus on the back of this shirt? And it's pretty obvious that this company seems to be not just vegan, but satanic vegan. But I like the shirt, and I want the shirt. And when I say satanic, I don't mean they worship a being. I'll say like Luciferian for that. Satanic, again, is just worship of like the self and propping the self up, and the ego gets all the glory for whatever you do in life. So it gets to be in the afternoon and several hours later and nothing happens. Finally, I get a message. To the effect of, you know, I've already issued you a refund, she said. You need to redo it, you know, put it back in the basket and do it this way. And I said, but I don't want the front personalized. I said, my personalization is just the text on the back. And she had already refunded me my money and told me that this is how I needed to do it. And it was going to cost a lot more because I wanted text on the back and the front. And I said, wait a second. It comes with the image on the front. I could just buy it without adding the personalization, but you have the box there to check, and I sent you 2 messages trying to affirm all this, that, you know, I had the proper understanding going forward. So again, I know in my heart why this happened. I know that it was because I asked her to print Jesus on this shirt, and now not only have I been and I don't want to call it persecution so much as just, I mean, it is a form of persecution, but it's systematic. It's like from the system itself, you know? That's how I try to look at it anyways. But I had to deal with them hating me because I included Christ as part of my first post and a part of my testimony. I said I didn't include my entire testimony of being a vegan because I didn't want to. I said, I just wanted to test the waters of posting here. I said, it's my first post. I said, I didn't tell you why I became a vegan. I said, I told you I wanted to use the experience to witness to other Christians. But they assumed. Now, again, this is what happens with virtue signaling, though. And that's, being woke was a good thing in the beginning. Because you recognize virtue signaling and cancel culture for what it was. They make everything that's supposed to be good, they turn it into a corruption or a perversion. So now I'm going to talk about the series King David real quick. Briefly, it won't take long. But I'm also going to offer a little encouragement when I give you just a little bit about his David's story. But I want to talk about Christian influencers out there, the bigger posh channels, not like mine at all, the really big ones that have sponsors and who are used to this. They are actors. These are the jobs for them, but they're not just jobs. They started out in child talent agencies, and Hollywood is dead, and the YouTubers are the new Hollywood. This is why they unseated them. This is why they dethroned Hollywood, was to take their place. Okay? Now I'm doing this in the best way that I know how. Remember when I said they use reverse psychology a lot? They like to tell you to do this or to not do this, blah, blah, blah. Well, the Christians aren't it's not entirely that way, right? I'm sorry, my cigarette came on that. And yes, I still smoke, but I just dropped dairy, and I also dropped a medication that I was on, which leaves 1. I started out on 9, now I'm on 1. And I was way too young to be on that much medication, but I'm not a doctor and no part of this is medical advice. So about David, the series, there are a lot of big YouTubers out there telling you not to watch it, telling you it's not worth it, that it's not biblically accurate, that you should steer clear of it and stay away from it. And they know you want to be a good little Christian, or you want to be a good little boy and girl, so you're going to do what you're told and you trust these people. I'm going to tell you right now, if they are big and they're on YouTube, they are in the Freemasonic Club. They just are. That's how it works. And it's not just Freemasons, right? Everybody has kind of got a piece of this pie. Everybody's gotten together, and if you're not in one of their groups, well, then they're going to kick you until you're down and until you stay down. I know that because that's part of my testimony. I was asked by someone I love very much, why do you keep getting up? And I said, what do you mean? Because there's no other option. It's what you do. You keep getting up. You get knocked down 7 times, friend. You get up 8. You keep getting up, and you keep standing firm, firmly rooted in truth. But that means all truth in your society and the way that we live. So they're telling you not to watch David because a lot of these people are Freemasons. I don't care if they say they're Catholic. I don't care how well they know the Bible. They are. And they're wanting to unseat the power in every group. They don't want a monarchy anymore. They don't want the central division for the money anymore. And I'm not saying I disagree. I have a feeling God is allowing these systems to be dismantled for his own use, for his children. All right? But again, that's a different story. So they're telling you not to watch it and that it's not biblically accurate. Why are they telling you that? Number one, because they're very clear about there being giants. And I'm going to go one further and tell you that, and if you've watched my other videos about this topic, you know how I feel about the bigger beings that we live with. I think there's good ones and bad ones, just like people. There's those that eat meat and those that don't. And when you get down to it, diet, and I hate that word now because it has the word die in it, but diet has almost everything to do with this place. It's what you consume. What you put in your body affects your experience here and how you perceive it and what you go through and what you don't go through. If you watch David, you're going to see clear as day that they are still among us because there's no special effects. I mean, there's a few, but those are beings that we live with. And they don't want you knowing that. They don't want you guessing yet. They want it to be revealed when they want it to be revealed on their schedule. They want you to be surprised and shocked. And I'll go one further. The reason all these people are talking about Satan's little season and promoting that theory is because they don't want you to recognize the Antichrist, and they want you to think the Antichrist is Christ who's been on the earth all along. Now, is Christ actually here? I haven't decided yet. He might be, he might not be. I'm uncertain about that, but I'm pretty sure that the true LDS Latter-day Saints, the ones who are actually devoted to Christ, pretty sure they know. I'm pretty sure they hold that answer. Anyways, moving on. They don't want you watching David because it is physically, materially accurate. And if you watch it, you'll see again, if you're used to watching the screen and you can pick out AI really well, there's not a lot of like that's a real being. And he's standing by other regular sized adult humans, and he's towering. He's like 9 feet tall. That's what our basketball players are. They are a giant breed, and they are magicians. They're sorcerers. That's why they do all those little tricks beforehand, and that's how they can do all the tricks that they do. My dad took me to see the Harlem Globetrotters when I was a child. And again, I apologize. I took another really good knock on the head. That makes several for my life, and 2 just in the last few years, and it affects you. I am not going to say that it doesn't, because it does. So, moving on. They don't want you to watch it because it also, really, I think it defines what it means to be a king in spirit. Now again, I don't want to talk monarchy in the physical sense. I mean in spirit. I noticed, I've watched one episode, and I'm going to continue watching it because it is really kind of epic. Because I don't believe there's a lot of special effects used. I do believe those are giant beings that are in the movie. They want to be worshipped. They feel it's time for them to come out of the shadows. This is why you're seeing the dismantling of everything, and this is why there's going to be another World's Fair. At least they're saying there is. And look, people come in and then they leave, and it's just wild. So in my personal opinion, veganism is no better than malnutrition or junk foods only diets. That's your personal opinion. You are definitely entitled to have that. My opinion would be that you're rather brainwashed by mainstream scientism. But we all have opinions, don't we? As a Christ follower, I wish you the best. Obviously, you didn't stick around. So I wish you nothing but the best. Shalom to you, blessed be. Peace be with you. May my peace go with you. So that's why they don't want you watching it. I would watch it. It's rather epic. And it proves to you, again, and the person who plays Samuel looks just like I pictured, or Daniel, I'm sorry, looks just like I pictured him to look in my mind. Is it Daniel or Samuel? Now, again, my head, I apologize. I'm not at the top of my game. I'm gonna have a sip of coffee. I didn't see the preview for King of Kings. This one is the David series on Prime on, oh, heaven's sakes, on Amazon. Again, my brain is having a hard time reaching for the words today. Yeah, I think it's a rather epic. If you like Lord of the Rings and you like Gandalf and that whole, the imagery, you know, the cinematics in it, you'll really like this, I think. You could watch it just for the visuals alone. I think it really does the trick as far as it'll feed your fantasy craving, I guess is what I'm looking for. And that's what they say. They say it's not biblically accurate and it's too based in science fiction or fantasy. But again, we know that there are basketball players walking among us, Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, who are quite large in size. Wrestlers, quite large in size. The ones who are actually living, breathing beings. So that's why they don't want you to watch it. But it also proves to you the spirit of a king. What a king goes through to be a king. Because the scripture says, there's a part that says, it's God's job to conceal a thing, and it's a king's job to seek it out. And I believe there's a reason for that, because we should all have the spirit of a king and seek out. You should have to work for what you want in life. However, we all fall into hard times, and we should be there to help each other up and not kick each other when we are down. The spirit of a king, the spirit of David, will remind you that you have that inside of you, that you can be like that too. And again, they hate a good hero. So I want to read you just something really quickly to encourage the spirit of a king in you. However, I want to also preface this, hold on, I'm trying to pull something up on this other phone and I can't see, so I gotta make it brighter. There we go. Excuse me. So David, I'm gonna read you just like one of his little things that he did. Okay, so this is Wikipedia. The history of David falls naturally into 3 periods: before his elevation to the throne, his reign at Hebron over Judah, and at Jerusalem over Israel until his sin. And then 3, his sin and last years. Now, here's the thing to remember. And again, I'm only going to read you a brief part of this because I just want you to understand something like I had to learn. After his sin with Bathsheba, when he strayed, when he committed adultery, and the indirect assassination of Uriah, her husband, David made her his wife. A year elapsed before his repentance for the sin, but his contrition was so sincere that God pardoned him, though at the same time announcing the severe penalties that were to follow. A couple things here. One is, in our history, it was just widely known, not accepted, not believed, but known that God was real, that he loved us, but that there are consequences for your negative actions. It was known. No one called you crazy for it. No one called you insane for it. The only time you ever got called mad was when you went around acting like something you weren't, like a beast. We have a lot of that today, don't we? A perverted form of bestiality with everybody putting the bunny ears on themselves and going around and being furries and Furbies and all this stuff. And again, I'm not passing judgment. I'm trying to show you that we are still in Egypt. We are still in Babylon. And we never left as far as that goes. Hold, please, while I take a sip of coffee. I rarely drink coffee, but I was feeling so poorly. that I had to have some. You'll know that if you watch my coffee videos. So he had a rise to the throne like no other because he was so young. He was like 15, right? And back then, again, it was accepted that you hit a certain age, you're responsible for your actions. Only you can, you know what I mean, control what you did. People were a lot more grown and mature by the age of 15, 16 years old. So certain things were looked at differently because you were considered an adult, right? But you also had to face the penalties of an adult. Now, after he fell and strayed and all of this happened, some of the Psalms that are in the book of Psalms are written by him during his fall and his conversion, I guess, repentance, turning back to God and God's ways, and knowing what he did wrong, and all this type of things. There we go. I'm just pulling something up. I apologize. $34. Let's read one. Maybe in a minute here. Okay, so after his fall, the important thing to remember is even though he repented and had a full conversion, he still, and God forgave him, right? He was under God's habitation, but there were still consequences that had to unfold for his actions in the material, because natural law has to be satisfied. And when you go against natural law, and by that I mean the laws of nature, if you look around you in nature, you see the mother giving birth, right? You see the father is sometimes the one who sits on the nest, and sometimes he's the one that goes out and gets the stuff for the nest. The mother will often go out and get the food for the babies. These things you see in nature are obvious. And when you start getting into the headspace of that's not how things are, they can be another way, you start getting into true insanity, like thinking that you can change the laws of nature. I mean, in my humble opinion, that is the biggest vanity and pride and delusion, to think that you can go against nature in certain ways. That you just can't, right? So that's what's important to remember, that the things that I am going through and the persecutions that I speak about, yes, God asked me to witness, and so I do that. But my walk is not yours, and I am going to experience more than you probably at this time. At least I hope it's more than you, because of my fall, because of what I did. But Satan knew that. Like, he knew that. He entered my family. Now looking back, I can see it. And he basically told me as he walked into my house what he was, he basically told me what he was. And I didn't believe him. And I'm trying to get you to see where we're really at. They don't want you to watch David because they say it's fantastical or whatever. But the truth is that it's based more on reality than most anything you see today. And that's the reason they don't want you watching it. It has nothing to do with the other things. Hey, bird. So I'm going to touch base on Sherry Shriner for a minute. And yeah, I know that's a real big topic change. You're like, what? Like, that's weird. But first I'm going to read a psalm, just for the purposes of encouraging you and giving you a little more into David's mindset and what he went through. Because when we look at these things, these writings, they have survived so long because we were meant to see them. We have to see them. And yes, the people in the vegan group said, what, you need a book to teach you how to be good? Yes and no, because you can get into such a place of self-delusion that you need some common sense to bring you back around. And for some people, that's reading. For some people, that's watching a movie. For some people, and I mean immersive, right? For some people, it's tactile. It's something you have to like go through and learn the actual process of. For everyone, it's different. And my walk is going to be different than yours. And I honestly hope that my walk is more severe than yours. Because I know that while I am receiving persecution because I am of the Lord's, the Lord is allowing it because of what I did wrong. And it's important to point that out. And it's important to be accountable. Okay, so this is a Psalm of David. It says, the introduction says, when he pretended to be insane before Abimelech, who drove him away, and he left. Let me pull up the version I want up. Why do you keep doing this to me? Stop it. Okay. So it says, I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise will be continually on my lips. Even as he's hiding from and being cast out of town by town by town, going through it with Saul, everything, his whole life, except for a few short years, he was all about God, whether he was suffering or whether he was succeeding. Okay? Now, again, I'm going to go over Sherry Shriner in a minute, and then I'm going to touch base. I'm going to go back to the beginning of the video and touch base on something there, okay? But just bear with me. This is just chatting. You can just listen. I hope my voice isn't too irritating for you. I know some out there don't like it, and I know it's because of our bloodlines. I don't even have to say anything wrong. It just, for some reason, grates on them, and I can't change that. My soul, I will glory in the Lord. Let the lowly hear and be glad. Magnify the Lord with me. Let us exalt his name together. I sought the Lord, and he answered me. He set me free from all my fears. Look to him, and you will be radiant. Your faces will never be covered with shame. In my anguish, I cried out. The Lord heard my plea, and I was saved from all my troubles. The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear God. So he's trying to teach you from his experience. Right? Because he forgot these things, because he did not fear the God who set natural law in place, and because he broke one of those laws and he was unfaithful. He is trying to teach you as well through his experience, and this is why writings like this have been preserved for us, because we are such a hard-headed, hard-hearted society that, yes, sometimes sadly we need a book or something physical to remind us that we are more than beasts, so more is expected of us. The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him, and he delivers them. Taste and see the Lord is good. Blessed is the man who takes refuge in him. Fear the Lord, you his saints. Nothing is lacking for those who fear him. The powerful suffer want and go hungry, but those who seek the Lord want for no good thing. Come, my children, and listen to me. I will teach you the fear of the Lord. Who among you delights in life and desires many years to enjoy prosperity? Then keep your tongue from evil and your lips from telling lies. Shun evil and do good. Seek peace and pursue it. Now again, he pretended to be insane intentionally to get out of a situation, and he is still praising the Lord now that he is older. He had fallen. He is facing these disastrous consequences for his own actions and decisions. He is trying to impart upon us, the reader, of how to simply be good and how to avoid suffering, right? The Lord remains close to the brokenhearted, right? So I'm just reading you bits of this now. It says, evil will bring death to the wicked, and those who hate the righteous will be condemned. Evil will bring death to the wicked, and those who hate the righteous will be condemned. The Lord redeems the lives of those who serve him. No one will be condemned who takes refuge in him. I'm going to read you one more thing, and it's going to be short, and then I'll close with the Sherry Shriner deal, because it lines up with David. As strange again as that sounds, We're going to get into another psalm here. 8:4. Psalm 8:4 asks, "What is man that thou art mindful of him, and the son of man that thou visitest him?" Is that right? Is that the one I'm looking for? That might not be the right one. Hold, please. 36:6. Hold on. Thank you for your patience, guys. It says Psalm 36:6 states, "Your righteousness is like the highest mountains, your justice like the great deep. You, Lord, preserve both people and animals." Okay, I have a whole list here of Psalms talking about even the prophets telling people to stop eating of things dedicated to false idols. But everybody took it wrong. Everybody said, okay, well, if we glorify God, that's different, right? Not really. And where's Isaiah? Hold, please. My notes. I also found another text that I was unaware of. Sorry, I'm looking for a very specific verse, and I had written it down. Isaiah. There we go. Isaiah 1:11. Let's try that. And yes, this all goes together, so I do appreciate your patience. It's to show you something, if I can lay them all out rightly. There we go, 1:11. The Lord questions the value of the Israelites' numerous sacrifices, stating that he is full of burnt offerings of rams and the fat of beasts, and that he doesn't delight in the blood of bulls, lambs, or goats. Now again, that's not saying anything but those are okay. Okay, let me show you another one here. Let's go to, we'll stay in Isaiah. Let's go to Isaiah 2:4. So it didn't take a book to show me. It was my dog. It was me sitting there looking in the eyes of my dog saying, how can I call myself an animal lover? Isaiah 2:4 prophesies a future. I want the actual verse. Give it to me. Isaiah 2:4, he will settle disputes among the nations and provide arbitration for many peoples, justice. They will turn their swords into plows and their spears into pruning knives. What do you think that means? Do you know how the food gets to your table? Because I didn't, and that was negligent of me, and now that I know, it makes me sick every time I think about it. Isaiah 11:6, and this is the last one I'll read. Thank you for bearing with me, even if your conscience or your is grating on you right now. There's a reason for that. Isaiah 11:6 says, and don't get into the Mandela effect. That's not what I'm talking about here. Okay, I'm trying to teach you the point of the verse. The wolf, and different verses say different things. Okay, so what it means is predator and prey. That's what it means. So keep that in your mind for a minute, and just bear with me. The wolf shall dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the young goat, and the calf and the lion and the fattened calf together, and a little child shall lead them. This means that predator and prey will no longer be predator and prey. They will no longer kill each other. Even the animals won't, okay, in the end days. And by a little child shall lead them, in this verse, and I'll get into the physical meaning later, but it is showing you again that even mankind shall be in its proper position with the animals, because the animals aren't supposed to be attacking us. That happens in the end days, but this is after all tribulation, that the animals and the people shall once again dwell together, doing no harm to each other. The way it was in the beginning is the way it shall be in the end. The end shall be the beginning again. Okay, and there shall be a period of harmony among both animals and people, because they were our companions in the beginning. Okay? And again, I'm not trying to this is the furthest thing from judgment. That's the furthest thing from my mind in doing this. So, I make no judgment. Isaiah 5:8-6, the Lord questions the Israelites on the nature of their fasting, stating that true fasting involves actions like to loose the bonds of wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens, to let the oppressed go free, and that you break every yoke. He's saying that they were fasting as a virtue signal, that they were merely virtue signaling to be good. They were fasting because they thought it made them better than others, and that was never the purpose. Okay? So again, everything is related. Everything is connected. Just like every part of your personal testimony, every event you've been through should very well start looking synchronatic, because we are at this time when the veil is being lifted from our eyes. Christ rent the veil. He tore the veil. But it's our job to be able to see that. And Isaiah 60:18, and this is the last one, I'm sorry. Violence will no longer be heard in your land, nor devastation or destruction within your borders, but you will call your walls salvation and your gates praise. So again, we get a vision of after tribulation, when everything starts to start over again and is healed. There won't be any more violence. There won't be any more devastation or destruction, right? Spiritually, we will start to be lifted up and recognize who and what we are, and that we are to care for the earth, the animals, and each other, because the whole story is about love. It's a love story, and it's about coming together as a family. But again, my journey is not your journey. You will not hopefully have to go through some of the heartbreaking scenarios I've went through, and that is only because I love my family so deeply, and I'm sure you do as well. This is the last one in Isaiah, and it is the last one, and then I'll talk briefly about Sherry Striner. He that killeth an ox is as if he slew a man. So it's telling you right here that the first commandment, thou shalt not kill, it doesn't include only people. It includes animals too. Listen again. Again, I'm not judging you. He that killeth an ox is as if he slew a man. He that sacrificed a lamb, as if he cut off a dog's neck. He that offered an oblation, as if he offered swine's blood. He that burneth incense, as if he blessed an idol. Because burnt sacrifices aren't what God wants. Now you're going to say, well, isn't that what he asked for in the beginning? I don't know 100%, but I don't think every voice in the Old Testament, or in the Bible for that matter, is the voice of God. We have a thing that likes to pretend and usurp that it's God, but it is not God. So Sherry Striner, real quick. There's a verse, back to David briefly, that says God promised he will never remove the monarchy from that family. So David's bloodline will always be a spiritual monarchy over the land. And Sherry Striner lived in Ohio. If you don't know who she is, I did 2 in-depth videos about her. I probably won't do any more just because she is no longer with us. There's not anything to say unless new information would come out. But I do believe she told us who she was by giving us that last name, Striner. Maybe it was just her husband and she was unaware. I don't know. I know that she talked about reptilians, and that there's a deception there. That's some type of agenda. I'm not saying we're not here with other beings. I am saying they want us to let, I don't know if it's fear they want us to feel or what by this agenda, but I've had people, when people push something on me, I generally know, like, as a rule, that's not what I should be doing. If people are trying too hard to convince me of something, or if multiple people bring up the same thing in this small town where I live, I know something is up, either from God or the other one. But usually from these people, it's the other one, and it's like something I have to avoid. In the same way that you should know now, if something trends, stay away from it. It's no good. So briefly, David and Sherry Shriner. So I think part of her story and her podcasts are deception, but there's a lot of information in there. Now, when I first started going through it, and you can see this in my featured videos, there are 2 testimony videos there. Excuse me, I should probably do another one, but I don't know if I have the desire to, like, I don't know. We'll see how, everything's very up in the air right now and tenuous. It always is lately. Anyways, she also lived in Ohio, and she talked about reptilians. She talked about the shadow government. She talked about the UFOs. And she spoke about something else, and this is how I found her. I found her first, and then people started telling me about her. That's how you know something is genuine and you're meant to fall upon it, is because you experience it first, and then you can confirm it through other people also experiencing. And again, not on a massive level, because this world, the secular world, buries the truth. It's here and you can find it and research for it, but usually it's buried. So I found her because when I started going through all this, I was like, it's as if my family is no longer here. Did they swap each other? And that's when I did the video about with verses, and so did another woman, Mona. I gotta find her channel again because she's a lovely older woman who knew her scripture, a woman of darker skin tone, darker color than me. I say woman of color and they say that's wrong too. You can't win. But she's beautiful and she has this great spirit for the Lord. And she did the same type of video called Musical Chairs of the Souls. And so I Googled, or I did a search on YouTube, because YouTube is, you can find stuff in the deep, deep recesses of YouTube that are weird. And I searched swapping of consciousness or something like that. And that's how I found Sherry Shriner. And she had spoke about that. And she spoke about the fallen angels. I think she went wrong when she started communicating with Lucifer. She said she was having this dialogue with him. You shouldn't do that. Like, we're not Christ. And if we are, like, it shouldn't. Talk to him about scripture. Like, give him scripture back. You're not supposed to engage like that, like she allegedly was. So I think that's one of the places she went wrong. But I also believe her last name gives us a clue as to who she is. She said her family was the line of David, and she allegedly died in 2017 of a heart attack. And I told you about eye drops, Visine. And then we saw that post by Bob Saget. Again, all this stuff I'm telling you guys about my testimony is being confirmed publicly in the public eye. If if you're shown it and you know where to look. So she said she was in the line of David, and I just wanted to say my family is too. I had a cousin named David. I told you what my dad's name, Regis August, means. But I told you also that our family name, the last name, came from what they called a beast, the beast of Javad, and it was a wolf man. And allegedly, the Pope chased after my family for generations, and I had no knowledge of it. So I'm going to talk briefly about generational curses real quick, because it goes along with the story of David, and it might help you today what you're facing. You can be rid of these things. You don't have to go through all these patterns. But you have to recognize that you're in the same cycle that your predecessors were in, like your grandma, your grandpa, your mom, your dad, and you have to break the pattern. You have to break the chain. Now, Jesus Christ breaks chains and he frees us. The truth is what sets us free, though, too. Jesus Christ is the truth, but there are other truths out there. You need to find the truth of why you're experiencing certain things, and you'll either learn to accept them and navigate them better, like I have. I just navigate now. Again, I can't control anyone else's actions, only my own reactions, or if I react or respond at all. Okay. Don't forget that. That is key in this. Don't be baited. Don't let them get you to a point where you act out in public if you're a targeted individual. But I'm going to talk about that. She went through a lot of the same stuff a lot of us are going through, and she said she was in the line of David. Well, I am too. Like, I know that I am for a fact. And again, I was raised Catholic, but for generations, the Pope chased around my family. There's something not jiving here. And for whatever reason, the Pope is a doppelganger of my father-in-law. Again, this is very strange. Try living it. And these aren't hallucinations, this is just, these things can be traced through paperwork. And I'm sure there's more. This is all I know right now. Point being, if you are being targeted, there's a very spiritual reason for it, or something that one of your predecessors came into agreement with. And these are your options. You either learn how to navigate these waters better and accept why they're happening to you. And sometimes, yes, knowing is everything. That I was married, sold, married, whatever, maneuvered into. You don't have to. You always have a choice. People will tell you here that you don't have a choice. There is always a choice. Now, you might get saddled with some tough consequences, but we're getting into a time where you're going to see these restrictions drawing closer. It's time to start restricting and denying yourself some material things so that when it happens, number one, you're stronger, and your willpower is stronger, and you can say no to like habitual behaviors and small addictions, even white sugar, soda, small things. A lot of things are very expensive. Know that you're not alone, and know that you're going to face things no matter what in this life, and that your walk isn't mine. I only share mine. David shared his. We all share our stories with the purpose of helping others. It's not to be glorified, because obviously, if someone like that is glorified, it's not till after they're passed. While we're alive, we're going through it on this side of the veil. And now that I walked all the way home yesterday in dress clothes, in heels, church clothes. Allegedly nobody should know what happened if I live a private life all on my own. Nobody should know what happened and why I was walking home, why I got out of the car. I'm just sick of hearing lies, and I can't hear him. I couldn't hear him no more, so he said, just get out, and I said, okay, I will. And I got out at the stop sign. But for nobody to offer, they didn't know if I was driving and my car broke down, supposedly. So if I'm not being targeted by my whole town, why didn't one person, and this was outside of my actual town, but it was still in the Masonic, it was still in their borders, and you can find them. Their signage is all over your small town if you live in like the center of a town. But why did nobody stop and say, hey, do you need a ride to where you're going? I don't want to get involved. Or, hey, did your car break down? Do you need some help? Do you need to call somebody? Would you like to use my phone? If I live a normal life where I'm not some type of object of contempt, and we have a society that is mostly loving and compassionate, like these groups try to say they are, why did not one person out of probably at least 50 cars that passed me, even on a Sunday in a small town, not one of them stopped to ask me and check in, are you okay? Do you need something? Is there something I can do? Now, if you've never heard of the Sherry Shriner, you could check her out. I wouldn't say that there's anything wrong with that. But, again, don't accept, receive, and believe everything that this place or we tell you. Go verify things for yourself. Go confirm them for yourself. Go investigate and research for yourself. Don't latch on to these people because they're popular. They're not going to make you popular because they're popular. Like, this is all vanity, and it's all going to come to an end. And it's better now if you understand that and you work on your skill set. Learn new skills. Spend time outside, out of doors, around animals, away from the ringing and the blinging and the tinging and the beeping of everyday electronic technological society. That's all I really have for today. I could go on about the hardened hearts and no more Jesus, right? I told you about those experiences. So I just wanted to warn you that it seems like people are getting less tolerant, and I would advise a day to watch is 420 and 418. I'll get into why later. 418, I believe, is on the liturgical calendar. Any Catholic holy day, they seem to be perverting. And all you have to do is look back to Biden's administration to see that, what he did on the Assumption of Mary Day. He virtue signaled to the Rainbow Club. So we need to take it all back. Not with violence, not with literal swords, with the swords of the Spirit that are our tongue, our words that we speak. And take it all back in a non-aggressive way. But we got to stop perverting everything. You're not alone. Nothing you're going through is outrageous. I mean, it is to you maybe, but we're all going through things right now. So please don't feel like you're the only one and that, you know, you're unlovable or unlikable. And if you get pushed down physically or spiritually 7 times, you get back up 8. I love you guys. Have a blessed day. Thank you for being here.